Derrel Jazz Johnson here, and it is an honor for me to interview Ryan Ruocco. Some of you may know, I've been a big fan of Ryan Ruocco 3 years ago when I wasn't actually doing this. I used to wake up in the mornings and call Ryan on what was then 1050 ESPN, what is now ESPN 98.7 here in New York. So it's an honor to actually speak with you in person.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jazz. We always enjoy your interactions then and now, of course, too, man.
Absolutely. So, can you explain the Chicago Bulls from Saturday night?
You know, I think that in part, obviously, you saw an injured Joakim Noah and how that can neuter their ability to play the kind of defense that they do, and how the Nets have a player in Brook Lopez who can really exploit that. And Brook was aware of a compromised Noah, and the Nets were aware, and they took advantage of that. And, you know, I also think Nets may be a little bit fresher right now. And also, we have said all along that this Nets team is sort of built for the postseason. And I think we saw, we didn't see Chicago's best, obviously. But I also think we saw how good the Nets can be at this time of year with this version of Deron Williams and Brook Lopez and what kind of things they can do playing playoff-style basketball.
How competitive can the Chicago Bulls be if Noah is compromised, if he's not nowhere near 100%?
I still think they can be competitive because, by and large, they play great defense. And when you play great defense, you're going to be in games. Also, we know that those games in Chicago are going to be incredibly difficult because that is an amazing atmosphere and such a tough place to play. So I think you're going to see them bounce back in Game 2 with more ferocity. I think you're going to see them play with great energy when they're at home. And I think that Game 1 will be the aberration, not the norm for this series. I think the Nets will win this series. I've been saying I think the Nets are going to win this series in 6, even with Noah healthy. So I still think they're going to win the series. But I think it's going to get a little bit tougher because Tom Thibodeau is such a great coach. Also, you give him time in between games to adjust. You know that he will.
I won't call it an elephant. There's a big Red Bull in the room in this series, and that is Derrick Rose. He was just shooting around on the court a couple of minutes ago. How does that affect the Chicago Bulls? How does that affect the Brooklyn Nets, the possibility that he may come back in this series?
You know, I think that you have to assume that he's not, because I think in all likelihood he's not. We've heard about him being close for months now. And to me, when you got Tom Thibodeau to say on the record just before Game 1 that he's likely out for the entire series, to me that was the most broad stroke we've seen him brush with the Derrick Rose injury. And that, to me, means that he's probably not coming back. And I think, look, if Derrick Rose all of a sudden comes back, plays Game 3 out of nowhere, and everybody thinks he's not, well, that one game, it might be tough for the Nets because they won't have prepared for that. Then you have a couple days off where you can deal with that and make the adjustments as is necessary. I think you do not want to waste time right now preparing for something that is not likely to happen. So you assume he's not going to play. If he does, might bite you for a game, but then you adjust otherwise. But I don't expect to see him. We'll see if we actually do.
Final question, what would a win of this series mean to the Brooklyn Nets franchise in their inaugural season here in Brooklyn?
I think it would mean a ton. You know, I think this season has already been a success with the attendance and the hype and the merchandise and the success that they've had on the court. And I think that, you know, you get a lot of people in here for the first time in the postseason to feel that energy, that electricity, and if it comes with results, that's something they can attach themselves to and grow with. They can say, hey, you know what? I remember when I was there for that Game 1 win and Deron Williams threw down the reverse dunk, and kids attach themselves to that, and they end up growing with a team that way. And I think also the Bulls, even in a diminished state, are a national franchise, and any win against them is greatly respected. And that's why I always thought it was more beneficial for the Nets to play Chicago rather than Atlanta. Not because Chicago would be an easier matchup, but because Chicago is more of a national franchise, would garner more attention. And this season for Brooklyn is about more than just on-court success. It's also about making your footprint in this city. And I think a win against the Bulls in this series goes a long way in furthering that cause, which has already been a very successful one up until this point.